Thank you, my brothers and sisters, for joining us on this Wednesday, another Wednesday. This is week 9 of our looking at significant African American persons in our community. In particular, this month of March, we've been looking at African American women and looking at their significant contributions and how they have tied to significant characters in the Bible. So we appreciate you for joining us. We've been doing this since the month of February, and if you've not been able to watch some of the previous Bible study iterations, that go back and look at them. I'm going to ask you now to help us get the word out as you normally do. For those of you who are watching by way of YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, thank you. You can help me by going to the Twitter page, church's Twitter page, SMZBC, and retweeting it. If you're on Facebook, you can start a watch party or just share it so that others can see it. YouTube, do the same thing. Encourage somebody to jump on and check it out. And for those of you who are either watching or listening by way of dial pad, we say thank you. We do want you to jump on afterwards, after Bible study discussions. And so if you're on dial pad, you just stay on dial pad. If you are watching YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you sign off and then you sign on to dial pad. So if you just want to listen, that's 804-203-9011. Hopefully if you've been watching and going along, you've downloaded the dial pad app by now, dial pad meetings app. And if not, then you can just go to meetings.dialpad.com/SMZBC to get on afterwards. All right, let's get started. We're going to start today's Bible study lesson focusing on the biblical character Lydia. And we're going to listen to her story in the Bible, New International Version, Acts the 16th chapter, verses 11 through 15. Check it out.
From Troas we put out to sea and sailed straight for Samothrace, and the next day we went on to Neapolis. From there we traveled to Philippi, a Roman colony and the leading city of that district of Macedonia, and we stayed there several days. On the Sabbath we went outside the city gate to the river, where we expected to find a place of prayer. We sat down and began to speak to the women who had gathered there. One of those listening was a woman from the city of Thyatira named Lydia, a dealer in purple cloth. She was a worshiper of God. The Lord opened her heart to respond to Paul's message. When she and the members of her household were baptized, she invited us to her home.
If you consider me a believer in the Lord,
she said,
come and stay at my house.
And she persuaded us.
In Acts chapter 16, we meet a woman named Lydia, as the text just let us know. Very little is said about her in the Bible. She's mentioned by name in Acts the 16th chapter, verse 14, which you just heard. And then again in the 40th verse of Acts 16th chapter, where it says, after Paul and Silas came out of prison, they went to Lydia's house, where they met with brothers and sisters and encouraged them. Then they left. And she doesn't have a long account in the Bible, yet within these few verses, we find the record of her conversion, of her baptism, and of her Christ-like hospitality. The New Interpreter's Bible Commentary, which we've learned, for those, we're going through an MIT class, Ministers in Training, with a couple of persons who are interested in preaching. We learned that Samuel DeWitt Proctor calls the New Interpreter's Bible Commentary one of the most significant theological resources. So the New Interpreter's Bible Commentary informs us that Paul met Lydia on a Sabbath in a makeshift synagogue, a small place located just outside of the community called Philippi. Scholars believe that this may mean that there was no synagogue within the city limits, and the informal setting would allow Rabbi Paul to sit with Gentile women in a way that wouldn't have been allowed in Jewish synagogues. Furthermore, the fact that Paul, that Timothy, Luke, and Silas, all of them, came to the riverside to speak to the woman or to women, most likely indicates that there was not enough Jewish men in Philippi to open up a synagogue there. On this particular Sabbath day, though, they may have been preparing for a worship service with Paul being their guest preacher. Lydia was one of the women present at the time. It suggested that her being mentioned by name indicates the importance of her conversion for the wider Philippian mission. These verses reveal that Lydia was, and what many of us know, was a businesswoman. Lydia's hometown was famous for its textile industry and for its purple goods. Archaeologists have found among the ruins inscriptions relating to a dyer's guild in the city. It is possible that Lydia was a member of this group because Lydia made her money selling purple cloth, which was a luxury item. It was a luxury item destined for the rich and the royal in the Roman community, in the Roman world. The color purple symbolized power and influence. A merchant in purple cloth would be someone who rubs shoulders daily with the society's rich and famous. She is also described as a worshiper of God, and it is believed that she was a Gentile connected to the church, connected to the synagogue, rather than a Jew. Not only was her ear open to the gospel, hear me, her heart was open as well. After receiving the Lord Jesus as her Savior, she and her whole household were baptized. And there was no mention of Lydia ever being married, so her household could have consisted of servants, not just children. The Lord had opened Lydia's heart to receive the word, and that resulted in her opening her home to receive her brothers and sisters in Christ. Now, we can assume that Lydia had significant means since she owns a home large enough to accommodate both Paul and Paul's crew. Lydia was not saved by good works, though. Like all of us, she was saved in order to do good for the sake of the kingdom. She proved the reality of her faith by opening up her home to Paul, to Silas, to Luke, and to Timothy. Her conversion marks the start of a new era in the Bible. Up to this point, the gospel was not going further than Asia Minor. Paul's original intentions had to be to stay in Asia, but God had changed his plans. The Lord sent Paul a vision, calling him westward into Macedonia. Lydia, although a native of Asia Minor, is the first person recorded to have been saved in Europe. From such small beginnings, the Church of Philippi began, and Lydia's home, hear me, became the center for Christian outreach. It became the center for worship in the area. The story of Lydia is a great example of God's providence and God's care, in particular for believers. Lydia was a worshiper of God, but until that Sabbath day, she had not yet heard the gospel. God rerouted Paul so that he and Lydia would be in the right place at the right time to share and hear the good news of Jesus. Today, I want to share with you the story of three black women who used their wealth and their wisdom to do good work for the community. According to the National Park Service website, in spite of humble beginnings in post-Civil War Richmond, Virginia, Maggie Lena Walker achieved national prominence as a businesswoman and as a community leader. She was the first African-American woman in the United States to found a bank. Her successes and vision offered tangible improvements in the way of life for African Americans and for women. Maggie was born in Richmond on July 15, 1864. Her mother, Elizabeth Draper, was a former slave and assistant cook in the Churchill mansion of Elizabeth Van Lew, a Civil War spy. Her biological father was said to be an Irish-born Confederate soldier. When Maggie was about 4 years old, her mother married William Mitchell, and the family moved to their own home in an alley between Broad and Marshall Streets, where Maggie and her brother Johnny were raised. The house was near the First African Baptist Church, which, like many black churches at the time, was an economic, political, and social center for the local black community. Maggie was a longtime member of the church. After her stepfather's untimely death, Maggie's mother supported the family by working as a laundress and young Maggie helped by delivering the clean clothes. Maggie Mitchell was educated in Richmond's public schools. When she was a teenager, she joined the local council of the Independent Order St. Luke, founded in 1867 in Baltimore. This benevolent society aided African Americans in times of old age and death. They helped the sick and elderly, promoted humanitarian causes, and encouraged individual self-help and integrity. She served in various capacities, from that of a convention delegate to the top leadership position of Right Worthy Grand Secretary in 1899, a position that she held until her death. Under her leadership, membership and the numbers of councils increased throughout the country. With her sound fiscal policies, public relations skills, and energy, she helped a dying organization thrive. Let me back up. After graduating, she taught grade school for 3 years. Her teaching career ended in 1886 when she married Armstead Walker Jr. Remember, like MLK's mom, married women weren't allowed to teach. As a wife, Maggie directed her energies toward raising her 4 children, as well as strengthening the Independent Order of St. Luke. Walker focused her efforts on accounting and math. Her first business endeavor was a community insurance company for women. From there, she continued her entrepreneurial pursuits. In 1901, Maggie Lena Walker boldly presented her community with an idea for economic empowerment. Quote, "We need a savings bank, chartered, officered, and run by the men and women of this order. Let us have a bank that would take the nickels and turn them into dollars." In 1902, Ms. Walker established a newspaper, the St. Luke Herald. Throughout the newspaper, she encouraged African Americans in Richmond to harness their economic power by establishing their own institutions. In speeches, she is quoted often as saying, "Let us put our money together. Let us use our money. Let us put our money together out at usury among ourselves and reap the benefits ourselves." In 1903, she founded the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank and served as the bank's first president, which earned her the recognition of being the first African American woman in particular to charter a bank in the United States. According to some accounts, she is the first woman of any race to do so. The bank was a positive and powerful representation of black self-help in the segregated South. The Penny Savings Bank not only attracted adults, but Walker worked to appeal to children by passing out banks, which encouraged them to save their money. By 1924, the Penny Saving Bank had spread to other parts of Virginia and included more than 50,000 members. While other banks collapsed during the Great Depression, the St. Luke's Penny Savings Bank survived. Later, she agreed to serve as chairperson of the board of directors when the bank merged with 2 other Richmond banks to become the Consolidated Bank and Trust Company. Until 2009, the bank thrived as the oldest continually African-American operated bank in the United States. In her personal life, in 1914, Maggie's 25-year-old son shot and killed his father, Armstead, my God, having mistaken him for a burglar for whom they had been searching. Russell was arrested and charged with murder, and after 5 months awaiting trial was declared innocent. Her husband's passing left her in charge of a large estate. Her work and investments kept the family together, kept the family comfortable as well. When 2 of her sons married, their wives moved with them into the house on East Lee Street. Russell, however, never recovered from the incident of shooting his father, and after 8 years of depression and alcoholism, died in 1923. Maggie Lena Walker devoted her life to civil rights advancement. She devoted her life to economic empowerment. She devoted her life to educational opportunities for Jim Crow era African Americans and women. As an advocate, Mary Walker served on the board of trustees for several women's groups, including the National Association of Colored Women and the Virginia Industrial School for Girls. She also worked alongside Mary McLeod Bethune and W.E.B. Du Bois. She helped to organize the local NAACP branch and served as vice president. She was also a member of the National NAACP board. All of her life, Maggie Lena Walker spoke out for equal rights, and fair employment, especially for women. As a bank president, newspaper editor, and fraternal leader, Walker served as an inspiration. Ms. Walker's health gradually declined, and by 1928, she was using a wheelchair. Despite her physical limitations, she remained actively committed to her life's work, including chairwoman of the bank and leader of the Independent Order of St. Luke. Maggie Lena Walker died on December 15, 1934, of diabetic gangrene. Her funeral was held at Richmond's First African Baptist Church. Her home in East Lee was purchased by National Park Service in 1979 and converted into a National Historic Site. The next woman I would like to talk about is Madam C.J. Walker. She's no relation to Maggie Lena Walker. Madam C.J. is recognized as the, quote, first black woman millionaire in America, unquote, and made her fortunes thanks to her homemade line of hair care products for black women. She was born Sarah Breedlove on December 23, 1867. Her parents, Owen and Minerva, were Louisiana sharecroppers who had been born into slavery. Sarah, the fifth child, was the first in her family to be born free after the Emancipation Proclamation. Her early life was marked by hardship. Her parents died when she was young, making her orphan at age 7. Sarah married Moses McWilliams when she was just 14. The couple had a daughter in 1885. By age 20, Sarah was a widow. When her daughter was 2 years old, they moved to St. Louis, where she balanced working as a laundress with night school. She sang in the choir of the St. Paul AME Church and became active in the National Association of Colored Women. It was in St. Louis that she first met Charles J. Walker, the man who would become her second husband and inspire the name of her eventual empire. Sarah moved to Denver, Colorado in 1905 with just $1.05 in her pocket. Charles J. Walker moved to Denver in 1906, and they were married soon after. At first, her husband helped her with marketing and advertising and mail orders, but as the business grew, they grew apart, and the two divorced. Madam CJ was inspired to create hair care products for black women after a scalp disorder caused her to lose much of her own hair. She came up with a treatment that would completely change the black hair care industry. Walker's method, known as the Walker system, involved scalp preparations, lotions, and iron combs. Hair products like Wonderful Hair Grower and her custom pomade sold very well. While other products for black hair, largely manufactured by white businesses, were on the market, she differentiated hers by emphasizing its attention to the health of the woman who would use it. She sold her homemade products directly to black women, using a personal approach that won her loyal customers. She went on to employ a fleet of saleswomen to select the product, whom she called beauty culturists. 1908, Walker opened a beauty store and factory in Pittsburgh, named after her daughter, Alayla. 1910, she moved her business headquarters in Indianapolis, a city with access to railroads for distribution and a large population of African-American customers. She left the management of the Pittsburgh branch to Alayla. At the height of the production, the Madam C.J. Walker Company employed over 3,000 people, largely black women, who sold products door to door. Walker became one of the best known African Americans and was embraced by the black media. The success of her business enabled her to live in homes that were a far cry from the ones she had grown up in. Her Manhattan townhouse became a salon for members of the Harlem Renaissance when her daughter inherited it in 1920. A talented entrepreneur with a knack for social promotion, Walker built a business empire. However, her reputation as an entrepreneur was matched only by her reputation for philanthropy. The self-made millionaire used her fortune to fund scholarships for women at the Tuskegee Institute and donated large parts of her wealth to the NAACP, the Black YMCA, and other charities. She established clubs for her employees, encouraging them to give back to their communities and rewarding them with bonuses when they did. At a time when jobs for black women were fairly limited, she promoted female talent, even stipulating it in her company's charter that only a woman could serve as president. Madam Walker, Madam C.J. Walker that is, died at her country home on May 25, 1919, at the age of 51 of hypertension. Today, she is remembered as a pioneering black female entrepreneur who inspired many with her financial independence, business acumen, and philanthropy. And finally, the last woman that we will present today is Annie Minerva Turnbo Malone. She too was an African American businesswoman. She was an inventor and she was a philanthropist. She is considered to be one of the first African American women to also become a millionaire. In the first 3 decades of the 20th century, she founded and developed a large, prominent commercial and educational enterprise centered on cosmetics for African American women. Unfortunately, as has been the case with many of the women we've learned about this month, her success story is often overshadowed by another. Annie was born August 9, 1869. She was the daughter of Robert and Isabella Turnbo. Both had formerly been enslaved. When her father went off to fight for the Union with the 1st Kentucky Cavalry in the Civil War, Isabella took the couple's children and escaped from Kentucky, which at the time was a neutral border state that maintained slavery. After traveling down the Ohio River, she found refuge in Metropolis, Illinois. Annie Turnbo was born on a farm there, the 10th of 11 children. Like Madam C.J. Walker, Annie was also orphaned at a young age. She attended a public school in Metropolis before moving in 1896 to live with her older sister Ada. There, Turnbo attended high school. However, due to frequent illness, she was forced to withdraw from classes. Though she did not graduate, she did discover she was good at chemistry. While out of school, Turnbo grew fascinated with hair. At the time, many black women used goose fat, heavy oil, soap, bacon grease to straighten their curls, which damaged both the scalp and hair. Bacon grease. Anna often practiced hairdressing with her sister and began to develop her own hair care products that she knew could be used by other women. In 1900, at age 31, Annie started mixing and experimenting with different ingredients. She soon developed her signature product, the wonderful hair grower. In 1902, Annie married Nelson Pope. The couple divorced in 1907. It's one thing I see about these studies. A lot of these people persevere in spite of some unhealthy family dynamics. 1914, Annie Turnbo married Aaron Eugene Malone, a former teacher and religious book salesman. By the end of World War I, she was a millionaire and one of the most successful black women of her era. As a black woman, Turnbo was denied access to regular distribution channels. To sell her products, she and her assistants had to go door to door giving instructions. Business grew steadily. After a positive response at the 1904 World's Fair, Turnbo's Poro Company went national. She established Poro College in St. Louis in 1918. The Cosmetology School and Training Center offered black women opportunity to advance themselves. The facilities also housed Malone's business operations and served as a place for the African American community to gather for various civic functions. By the 1920s, Annie Turnbo Malone had become a multimillionaire. In 1924, she paid income tax of nearly $40,000, reportedly the highest in Missouri. Malone's wealth peaked in the 1920s, and it's believed that she had a net worth of $14 million at one point during that period. Some even allege that Malone became a millionaire before C.J. Walker did. However, Malone's multi-million-dollar business empire was put at risk in 1927 when her husband filed for a divorce, and he demanded half of the business. The high-profile dispute resulted in a settlement of $200,000. Seeking a fresh start, Malone moved her business headquarters to Chicago in 1930. Financial troubles continued to follow her. The aftermath of the 1929 stock market crash hit her company hard, as did a series of lawsuits. Despite these financial setbacks, Malone remained in business and had 32 branches of the Poirot School throughout the country in the mid-1950s. While extremely wealthy, Malone lived modestly, giving thousands of dollars to the local black YMCA and the Howard University College of Medicine. Annie became a benefactor of the St. Louis Colored Orphans Home, where she served as president of the board of directors from 1919 to 1943. With her help, in 1922, the home actually bought a facility. After her death, the orphans' home was renamed in the entrepreneur's honor as the Annie Malone Children and Family Service Center. As well as funding many programs, Annie ensured that her employees, all African Americans, were paid well and given opportunities for advancement. On May 10, 1957, Annie Turnbo Malone suffered a stroke, and she died in Chicago. Childless, she left her business and remaining fortune to her nieces and her nephews. At the time of her death, her estate was valued at $100,000. A chemist and an entrepreneur, Annie became a millionaire by successfully developing and marketing hair products for black women in St. Louis. She used her wealth to promote the advancement of black people and gave away most of her money to charity. Now, I began this summary of Annie Malone's life by saying her accomplishments are not well known. If you saw the 2020 Netflix series Self-Made, which told the story of Madam C.J. Walker, the character Addie Monroe is a fictionalized version of Annie Turnbo Malone. After Malone moved to St. Louis in anticipation of the World's Fair, correctly assessing that the large crowd would help her products catch on, she hired Walker as a sales agent. It's not clear how or when they met before working together. Malone would say that she personally, quote unquote, cured Walker's scalp issues. But Walker claimed that she was nearly bald when the solution, a sulfur-based treatment, came to her in a dream. After Walker went into business on her own, competing with Malone, the two had some kind of falling out. In the end, Annie's legacy as a pioneer in the African-American beauty and cosmetic business has largely been overshadowed by the success of her former employee, Madam C.J. Walker. This is beginning to change, however, and Malone is now being recognized for her role in launching the industry. Today, we salute them both. That's it for us for the week. For today's Bible study, I want you to jump over in the chat. Listen, our question today is, what did you learn about these women? We're discussing, and again, I pray that going all the way back to February, you have learned something every week for those of you who are on. We want you to know about the Bible, so that's why we talk about Lydia and Lydia's impact on the community, biblical stories, but today's stories, I pray, will strengthen your knowledge about the significance of black people in our culture. What did you learn about the women? All right, that's it. Jump on After Bible Study chat now. Don't go away. All right. If you're watching Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, I need you to jump on. We're going to be over on Dialpad. So if you're on Dialpad, stay there. All right. Turn your camera on. But if you're on Dial Pad, stay there. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, I need you to sign off. I need you to go. Find your Dial Pad meeting app on your phone or on your computer, or go to meetings.dialpad.com /SMZBC, or just simply call 804-203-9011. We're on a prayer call Thursday morning at 7 o'clock. That's tomorrow, 7 a.m. Friday, we're feeding 12:45 to 2. 12:45 to 2. Sunday, we're having worship in person and online. All right. We are still wearing masks in worship. We're spaced out. We got our air filtration system going. We really want to see our members back in the house of the worship. Now, if you're not comfortable, then stay online. But slowly but surely, give in-person worship a chance. All right? Try to come on back. 10:45 a.m. All right, I'm going to talk to y'all after Bible study. Gotta go.